Hello guys, I'm Tom, and today we'll explore who Lisa Trevor is. Lisa Trevor is undoubtedly one of the darkest, most complex, and terrifying characters in the Resident Evil saga. Her story, marked by indescribable suffering and transformation, makes her a symbol of the brutality and atrocities committed in the name of science by the Umbrella Corporation. She was one of the first victims of the cruel experiments involving the Progenitor Virus, carried out in the Spencer mansion, located on the desolate and dark outskirts of Raccoon City. Daughter of George Trevor, a renowned architect tasked with designing the mansion, Lisa started her life as an innocent young girl, unaware of the grim fate awaiting her. However, she was soon dragged into an endless nightmare, which not only stole her humanity, but transformed her into a monstrous creature, invulnerable to any virus or parasite injected into her. Lisa Trevor's tragic story becomes a descent into despair. Over the years, her mind was shattered due to the countless and merciless experiments she was subjected to, while her body underwent a horrific transformation, almost unrecognizable. As her suffering grew, Lisa began developing a macabre and disturbing obsession to rip the faces off the scientists who tortured her, convinced that these were the faces of her parents, whom she believed had been stolen from her. This macabre act of revenge led to the creation of a terrifying mask made from the disfigured faces of her victims. In this video, we dive deeply into the tragic and disturbing evolution of Lisa Trevor, breaking down her origin in the Resident Evil remake, exploring every phase of her physical and psychological transformation, and how, despite her inhuman monstrosity, she managed to preserve certain remnants of what once was her humanity. We will examine in detail her supernatural abilities and powers, her overwhelming resistance, and how, despite her strength, she also possessed vulnerabilities that made her a key piece in Umbrella's experiments. Lisa Trevor's story began in 1953 in an apparently normal and peaceful family environment. Her life, however, would radically change when her father, George Trevor, a renowned architect, was recruited by Oswell Spencer, the founder of Umbrella, to design the imposing mansion that would serve as the headquarters for the corporation's dark experiments. What seemed like a cordial relationship between Spencer and the Trevor family soon turned into a deadly trap. In 1967, Spencer invited the family to the mansion under the pretense of showing them the progress of the project. But it was all part of a much darker plan to hide the deadly practices carried out in the underground facilities of Umbrella. While George Trevor worked in the city, Lisa and her mother, Jessica, were captured by Spencer's guards and taken to the mansion's secret laboratories, where they became the first test subjects for Umbrella's cruel experiments. The tragedy of the Trevor family deepened even further when Jessica, in an attempt to show her daughter a possible escape plan, was brutally murdered. From that moment on, Lisa was left completely alone, abandoned in the clutches of Umbrella's scientists. It was here that her transformation began. While her father, unable to save her, tried to escape the mansion through a secret passage he had designed, he ultimately perished there, trapped and dying of hunger and thirst. As the only survivor of the experiments, Lisa underwent a series of mutations, which turned her into one of the most horrific and resilient creatures the corporation had created. Over the years, her mental health and sanity were destroyed by the constant abuse, and her aggression grew into an insatiable thirst for revenge. When the scientists tried to deceive her with her mother's clothing to calm her fury, Lisa, in her pain and madness, recognized the falsehood and reacted violently. From this act of desperation and fury, the famous mask was created from the faces of her torturers, a reminder of her suffering and pain. Despite Umbrella's attempts to capture her, Lisa managed to escape several times, but she was always recaptured. The experiments continued, but her superhuman resistance made her immune to the viruses and parasites injected into her, which surprised the scientists and piqued the interest of key figures within the corporation, such as Albert Wesker. Years passed, and Lisa became the subject of more and more tests, while her power and abilities grew, making her an almost indestructible being. In 1978, Dr. William Birkin took over the research and made Lisa his primary test subject, attempting unsuccessfully to use her to advance the development of new viral strains. In 1988, 10 years after the terrible initial experiments, Lisa Trevor was subjected to a new test that would mark an even more grotesque twist in her fate. This time, Umbrella scientists decided to expose her to the Nemesis alpha parasite, one of the corporation's most sinister creations, designed in Europe with the purpose of controlling the minds of its victims. What no one had anticipated was that Lisa would not only survive the parasite, but absorb it into her own body, defying the highest expectations. The impact of this discovery left Dr. William Birkin baffled, as Nemesis Alpha was known to be lethal to any test subject it was administered to. However, in Lisa's case, something completely unprecedented occurred. Not only did she survive, but her body assimilated it, proving that Lisa possessed an unparalleled resilience and strength. Dr. Birkin's subsequent analysis revealed a shocking discovery. Inside Lisa was a new mutant strain of the Progenitor Virus, something that had never been seen before. This completely unknown variant, unlike any other, opened new doors to genetic and viral research, which led Birkin to develop the Golgotha virus, or G-virus, furthering his studies thanks to the mutations triggered by the parasite inside Lisa's body. Despite the scientific implications of this finding, Lisa's story became even more terrifying, as she was not just a test subject. She was a creature whose resistance defied the laws of biology and human logic. Over the years, Lisa began to regain fragments of her former intelligence, and with it, her hatred toward the scientists who kept her imprisoned. This hatred turned into an unstoppable force, fueled by the pain and madness that had tormented her since her capture. Her revenge, insatiable and desperate, drove her to attack and kill anyone who crossed her path. The scientists who had kept her captive could no longer control the beast she had become. In her mind, tearing the faces off her victims represented a form of symbolic revenge, believing that the faces she tore away were those of the imposters who had stolen her humanity. This macabre behavior, though disturbing, reflected the desperation of a creature that had been stripped of everything she once knew. Realizing that they could no longer extract useful information from Lisa, Birkin, Wesker, and the other researchers decided it was time to end her existence. In 1995, Lisa was executed by Umbrella scientists. However, what seemed like the end of her tragic story was far from it. After being declared dead and thrown into an unknown location near the Spencer mansion, Lisa shocked everyone when, against all odds, she woke up. She was found in a small cabin near the mansion, surviving on pumpkins and vegetables she grew herself in the area, leaving Umbrella scientists horrified. The creature they had created had not only survived, but her ability to withstand death led Umbrella to a terrifying conclusion. They had created a nearly immortal creature, whose regenerative powers were so strong that neither firearms nor bombs could destroy her. In May 1998, chaos erupted when a new strain of the T-virus, known as Island, contaminated Umbrella's laboratories, transforming most of the scientists into zombies. Meanwhile, Lisa remained alive, clinging to her cabin, waiting for the return of her mother, a hope that kept her anchored in despair. In July of that same year, when the infected zombies and dogs began to invade the Arkley forest, the Raccoon City SDRS team arrived to investigate the strange occurrences. During this time, officers Jill Valentine and Chris Redfield encountered Lisa in her cabin. The image they found was heartbreaking. A creature caught between life and death, a shadow of what was once a human being. Eventually, Lisa found her way to an altar in the underground passages of the Spencer mansion, where she finally discovered the skeleton of her mother. Confronted with the harsh truth about everything that had happened, Lisa, in a desperate attempt to end her eternal suffering, threw herself from the altar, hoping to bring her existence to an end. But due to her immortality, the fall did not kill her. Instead, the tragedy of her life continued, a spiral of pain and hopelessness that seemed endless. In Resident Evil: Umbrella Chronicles, we see how, despite Lisa's suicide attempts, her recovery is rapid and almost supernatural. During the destruction of Umbrella's laboratories, Lisa encounters Albert Wesker, and in an act of revenge, she attacks him, perhaps remembering his involvement in the experiments. Lisa pursues him to the Spencer mansion, but before she can escape, a chandelier falls on her, trapping her before the mansion is completely destroyed by the self-destruct system. Although it seems Lisa dies in this moment, her fate remains uncertain, and rumors hint that she might return in Resident Evil 9: Requiem. As for her appearance, the mutations she underwent transformed Lisa into an even more terrifying and grotesque figure. Her body, elongated and disfigured, resembles that of a primate, with long limbs and a hunched posture. Always wearing a torn hospital gown, Lisa shows strange growths on her back and a monstrous-looking eye, similar to those of creatures infected by the G virus. But perhaps the most unsettling aspect of her appearance is the mask made from the faces of her victims, which remains glued to her face, revealing her true nature in a terrifying way. When Lisa suffered damage, her back would show tentacles, a clear sign that the Nemesis Alpha parasite was still present inside her. Although her intelligence was severely affected by the brain mutations, Lisa still retained fragments of her humanity, evident in her ability to start fires in her cabin and write in her diary, albeit clumsily and rudimentarily. Lisa is an unstoppable threat, capable of withstanding almost any type of damage due to her superhuman resistance. Although not particularly agile, her brutal strength and immortality make her one of the most terrifying and persistent creatures in the Resident Evil universe. Even Albert Wesker, one of the most powerful men in the franchise, acknowledged that facing Lisa was practically pointless, as her regenerative capacity and resistance to destruction made her nearly invincible. Umbrella's scientists soon realized they could not eliminate her, for she was not only immortal, but also lacked any real weakness. This made her one of the most terrifying adversaries in the series, a destruction machine whose resistance powers made her almost invincible, and whose savage nature still haunts the darkest corridors of Umbrella's memories.